Natasha, and thank you so much for joining me today. Well, this one came out way better than I was expecting, and this was fun. So this would be a great one for your scraps if you had little pieces to use up. Or if you're like me, I have pretty much used up what's available to me, so that's okay. I have some coloured cardstock here that I can use. I have the Playful, the Rainbow, and the Cools, and that is where I got these, basically a rainbow of colours from. Now, I will say that this has a white core to it. If you have solid core cardstock, then this is going to be easier. I did have to be a little bit careful around which way I ripped, but this works perfectly fine. And of course, you could colour them yourself. You could colour big pieces of paper, larger pieces, and then tear them up. But I decided to go with these colours initially. Now, as for your background, your backdrop, I chose to go with some Kraft coloured cardstock today. And again, doesn't matter which colour. I thought I might even use a really dark navy colour, or maybe even a black would look awesome, but just something a little different other than white. Then, to make life easier, I'm going to cover the entire panel here. I think I have a 5.5 by 5.5 inch piece here of Kraft cardstock, and I cover it in some scrapbook.com double-sided adhesive sheet, just one sheet, so that I can just make life easier. You absolutely could glue every individual piece here, and that would be perfectly fine. I just thought it's much easier to use an entire sheet here, and then it kind of ends up a little bit like the grouting technique that I did not too many videos ago. But I am just going to place these colours together in I sort of want them to go in a little bit of a roundy windmill sort of shape, but very organic. There is absolutely no harsh lines here. There's no rhyme or reason. I'm trying to be very non-specific about which pieces I put where. Just trying to sort of go with the flow and not try too many pieces and sort of just let it be okay. The shapes don't need to be perfect, the angles don't need to be perfect, the gaps don't need to be perfect, and this is my kind of card making. Now we are going to make this into the most gorgeous, shiny tile ever. This was fun. I am telling you, when I finished this, I went and showed everybody in my house the tile that I had created, and everybody was wowed. Now, they might have just done that for me and just to keep me happy, but nonetheless, I think it was very impressive. So I am moving on. I'm sort of going rainbow-ish, and again, I'm not measuring, I'm not making anything specific. There's no harsh lines between the two colours, and yeah, I was really, honestly, this was a very relaxing process, and because this whole sheet is sticky, it just means that I don't have to worry about adding glue to every single one, although you absolutely could do that if you didn't want to do the grouting steps that I will need to do, because of course there is exposed adhesive in between each one of these little pieces of paper, so I do need to keep that in mind. It's something you're going to need to take care of, but that's okay. I'm finishing up with my last little bit of purple here, and then of course it goes pink, red, orange, and then all the way around. And this tile was bigger than what I needed. I knew that at the beginning, and that's fine. But I will cut it down a little bit. I will cut off all those extra pieces that are going around the outside that are overhanging over the edges. But even just this looks quite cool at the moment, I must say. I was happy with this as it was. This was a fun and relaxing technique, and I like techniques that don't take any extra sort of tools or specialty equipment. So from here, you can see that there is a bit of stick on there, and we need to take care of that. There are several ways to go about it. You could absolutely use glitter. Some glitter would be beautiful. Burnish it in really, really well. I am going to choose to use some clear embossing powder. Now, this is obviously going to stick because of the adhesive, and then I'm going to melt it and set it so it is certainly not going anywhere. I do use my normal embossing powder. This is the super fine white embossing powder from Ranger. All of my embossing powders that I purchase are the super fine ones because I find that I can do fine detail as well as bold, solid images perfectly fine with that. But you could, if you wanted to, use some ultra thick embossing powder, and that is how we are going to create our gorgeous big tile. This is going to become one shiny, gorgeous big tile, and I absolutely love it. It means all of the little pieces are well trapped in there. I know that none of the edges are going to come up. I know that this is going to be quite hardy card if it has to go through the mail, all good things. Here I'm just trimming up just ever so slightly. My adhesive obviously had about 1 or 2 mils to the edge because of how I put it on, and I knew that, as I said, I was happy to cut this down a little bit, and I'm just cutting it from the back just so that I don't catch any of those pieces. I think they'll be fine because they were all this adhesive covering everything, but just in case. Now at this point, I apologize, I lost the footage. I heat set the first round of embossing powder. So that first round of embossing powder was adhered via the double-sided adhesive sheets. Now round 2 here, I'm going to use some VersaMark, a sticky embossing ink. It can go over top now that the first layer is set. And I am trying to put on a pretty heavy layer of this same clear embossing powder. We want to make this into a shiny, gorgeous tile. So I'm really not shaking off much of the embossing powder. It's going to be pretty thick. If you find that it's really thick and it's blowing off, when you add the heat gun closer to it, then obviously heat from underneath. But as you get more and more layers, it's going to just stick to the embossing powder that is there. Of course, I have sped this up, but this starts to get beautiful and shiny and just all sorts of good things tile. I was so excited when I was doing this. It's almost, look at that there. Look how good that looks. It reminds me of some sort of mosaic work. It was really fun to put together, really easy for me, and I think this is absolutely a very cool look. I decided to keep going and add some more layers so that it was very smooth on top, like a real tile. You might like to leave some so that you can kind of feel the texture of the pieces of paper still. Of course, the more embossing powder that you put on there, the less texture you are going to get from the tiles. It evens out, of course, once it's all heated, it kind of self-levels. So you've got, see, I didn't shake off too much of it there, so I'm going to heat from the bottom so I don't blow it all away. And then once it starts, it pretty much is pretty good at staying put, but this is going to create a really, really thick layer of embossing powder, and I wouldn't say it's really dimensional. It's not really domed up, but I would say it is very, very glossy and very shiny and feels a little bit like a tile. I was really impressed. I was having so much fun at this point. And when the light catches it, it is just stunning. So I'm happy with the amount of layers that we have on, and we are going to move on to creating a focal point. Now, at this point, I was like, I think I just want a really simple big balloon focal point, and I didn't have a die for one, so I thought I would cut my own, and I am just freehand cutting it the best that I can with a little pair of fussy cutting scissors. These are the little Cutter Bee scissors. They are brilliant, and I'm happy enough with how the balloon was going. I thought I would have happy birthday, the words happy birthday in a white, just plain white die cut. That is one of the beauties of having a really bold and colourful background and something that is not white. It means that you can go really simple with your focal points and your dies, and you're able to just really have a white embellishment or white sentiment, and it's going to stand out beautifully. This balloon here actually worked out okay considering I freehand drew it. I'm just going to trim it up a little bit, and I liked it. I liked the balloon itself, but when I put it on top, it just didn't have enough, oomph to it. So change of plan, and I've had this cute little penguin. This is the fancy penguin tag or something along those lines from Hero Arts, and I have had this for quite a while, and I really just want to use them. It really makes me happy. I have a couple of friends of mine who love penguins, and I thought, do you know what? Maybe this will end up being for one of them. So I'm going to run this penguin. It's very, very simple. And the one thing I do love about these dies is that it's not all intricate pieces. So you're not putting together 20 dies to make one image. That is overwhelming for me personally. So all you do is cut out the 2 in the penguin. I cut out 1 in black and 1 in white, and all the pieces stick together. So that's fine. I put his 2 little eyes in there as some black eyes. And then I just use my fussy cutting scissors to sort of trim those little connector pieces. Now this is a tag die, so I actually cut off the tag bit so that it wasn't a tag anymore, and that way it means that we can have multiple uses for it. I'm just going to use some liquid glue on the back here and stack these up. It's almost like paper piecing, just one on top of the other. And this just means that a little penguin is going to come to life, and he's really, really simple. So all I'm adding, there's really just 3 pieces. I'm going to add his little beak, and I'm going to add the black around the outside, and that's him done. I'm keeping life very simple with this gorgeous little penguin, and that's what attracted me to him when I saw the die. Very, very simple. So I'm happy with how simple he is. It looks cute, looks like it's going to fit perfectly on the front of my colourful image. To go with that, I have the Dress My Craft Thought Bubble. This is the number 1, so there must be some more, perhaps number 2 or number 3, different shapes maybe. I have lots of these cut out in white cardstock at the back. It just means I don't have to pull them out and die cut lots of times, and so I just keep them at the back of the packaging, and it means I can just grab them and go without having to actually get out my die cutter, and just figuring out which way I want the sentiment to come in from, the left or the right. This is the Happy Birthday Many Ways from Catherine Paula. I've showed all of these lots and lots of times, just really versatile. There's a couple of actually birthday stamp sets, so I'm just loving at the moment. These, this one here from Catherine Paula, and also the Gina K one. Big birthday stamp set, I think it's called. Just absolutely love. It gives me a really good range of sizes and fonts and sort of the ability to fit in any shape or space, which is what I need when I'm making a card, because I really don't plan ahead very much when I am making a card at all. And instead of having this one side by side, I'm going to stack it one on top of the other. So I'm just doing a little bit of partial inking there, stamping the happy, then cleaning it off, and then I will ink the birthday and then stamp that one. And I was figuring out how I wanted it on this odd shaped little speech bubble, but I think that works out well because it'll be nice and straight up the top and it reads nicely. Now, I didn't stamp that one super well, so I'm actually going to come in with a pen and just fix it up, and nobody would ever know. No need to stamp another one, just go over top of it. No one's going to look that closely at all. And then we are ready to almost put everything all together. Now, I'm sorry, I'm still sick. I've had this flu for like a couple of weeks now, 2.5 weeks maybe, and so I can't put off doing voiceovers anymore, so I'm positive that I will get there soon. Now, I am going to put this, I think I ended up cutting this down to be 5 by 5 inches, or maybe 4 3/4 by 4 3/4. It doesn't really matter. You know, with me, I don't really measure. I just like to make things even. And then I'm going to put it on a slightly larger card base, and it's got that gorgeous white border, which means that it ties in nicely with our speech bubble and everything. I have popped the speech bubble up on some foam dots that I had, and this little penguin is going to sit pretty much in the middle of where all of those colours intersect and come together, so it kind of covers up that middle bit, which I really like. And then the penguin is nice and flat, and then the sentiment is going to be popped up. This is such a simple card, but boy did I have fun doing this, and I think that this is one that children or grandchildren would really love as well. But look at the shine on this gorgeous tile. I had so much fun. Now, if you end up making your own version of this, please come over and show me and join us on the Facebook page, Come Crafting with Natasha, so you can post your photos there of your projects. If you would like to support my channel, I will leave a link down below to the Buy Me a Coffee page where I would much appreciate your support. But other than that, thank you so much for joining me. I hope you've enjoyed this gorgeous card that we've created today, and I hope that you give it a go. Have a lovely day, and I'll see you next time. Bye!